Good morning, my friends. Welcome to my very informal quilting studio. I'm Stitched by Susan. We're chatting live this morning about batting storage, a very inexpensive and very efficient way to store batting rolls, if indeed you do a lot of quilting and have rolls to store. So let's see who's tuning in. Carlene, faithful watcher in Boise, Teresa, Debbie, Janet. I'm starting to recognize lots of your names. Nancy, Terry, Mindy, Sharon, Cheryl. Mindy, looking forward to the 5 myths this Saturday. Yeah. We'll talk about that a little later. Meantime, yes, my name is Susan Smith. I am a long arm machine quilter, and I'm coming onto YouTube live each and every day for a full month. I think we're at day 22-ish today. Each time just talking about topics that surround machine quilting. Some of them have to do with a project that I'm working on the current day. Some of them, as today, have to do with kind of the background, the behind the scenes. You are in my ugly room this morning, so the lighting may be a little bit sketchy. It is what it is. It's all I've got back here. So lots more of you tuning in. So great. So great. So yeah, we're talking about batting storage today. And funny story about my batting rack that you're seeing behind me. This was a Valentine's Day gift. It really was. And those who know me are probably not surprised. For some of you, that may not make your heart go pitter pat. But for me, anything that's helpful is a sweetheart of a gift. So this is so helpful to me. It made such a difference when I could not have my rolls of batting standing around leaning on the wall and having to roll them out on my carpet in order to cut them. Because I have done in the past, even more than now, have done a lot of quilts and I was constantly having to cut batting. That was just such a nuisance to have it sitting around. And the rolls are so huge, right? They take up so much floor space. So when my husband built me this little storage system, I was ever so grateful. So I'm actually looking at it from the side so that you can really see what it is, because in case you want one of these, whether you want it this big or not, it's really, really inexpensive and easy to assemble. So all it is these racks here are the type that you would put in a closet. So you can find them definitely at a hardware store. Most Walmarts will have them, or any similar department store. So it's just the type of racks that would be in a wall closet where you would just rest the pole in this little U-shaped dip right here. Now, those wooden poles are not ideal. Well, they might work too. You need something that will fit through the cone of the batting for sure. And then you need something that you can attach to this hook so that it can't move and shift and fall down, right? So what we did is we got this, I can't even think of the term of it now. It's like for electrical tubing that they run wires through, and you can pick it up at the hardware store also. And at our hardware store, they were happy to cut it to length, which is really nice because even if you have a hacksaw, it can have quite sharp edges if you cut it at home. So at the hardware store, they cut it, they buffed it, and it came back to me ready to go. And they also were kind enough to drill holes into it for me. So these racks come actually with a hole pre-drilled. And I suppose if you used wooden closet dowels, you could drill this hole more easily yourself. So that might be a great option too. This metal tubing is called conduit. The word has come to me while I've been talking. For whatever reason, Dave had access to that, and that's what he chose. So you certainly could use another type of rail for the batting to run on if you wanted to. But in any event, you do need a hole drilled through it, and then I attach it with these simple D-ring clips. So it just goes down through the hole, and there's a pre-drilled one in the closet rack already, so that's easy. You don't have to do it. And then close this up, and that just keeps the batting from being able to shift, right? And fall out of those racks. So super, super easy to do. So in my case, I've got, you can just about see them all. I have 4 racks and I've got, I think, a 7.5 foot ceiling in this room. So that gives you an idea of how many rolls of bat you could fit in. Depends a little bit on the size. Like wool bats are a little puffier. These are for the most part 80-20 blends. So that's a very common size. So, you know, because I'm in my ugly room, it was very easy, obviously, to know where the studs are. We can see them. So it was really easy to assemble, to just drill into those very visible studs on the wall, and that's how we put it up. I'm going to go out with my camera a little bit so you can see the whole thing. There we go. Because we have differing sizes. Sorry about the wobble. What I've got on the bottom is my most common roll of batting, and it comes 120 inches wide, and it's folded in half, so therefore that's a 60-inch wide roll. So that's the widest one, and I needed that amount of length. So whether you have to find studs or whether you have to perhaps go longer is totally up to you. But you can see on mine on the left-hand side, if I move, some of them are shorter because we knew that our other rolls of batting would be a little smaller. They're 90-inch ones, so folded in half, they just need 45. And we had studs in relatively the right places. So the conduits then are a bit shorter, the brackets are a little closer spaced. That you can easily customize to fit whatever size of room you're in. And I'm gonna move back so you don't have that nasty fluorescent light in the screen. So does that all make sense how it's hanging? Let's see if there are any questions coming up about it. I see lots of good mornings coming in. Oh, Donna's headed to our local quilt inn later this morning. That's great. Quilts for Survivors, awesome. Mindy, I love helpful, useful gifts. I know, they're the best. I mean, at this point in my life, you can only have so many sort of frivolous, pretty gifts, and then it's just stuff, right? But the useful ones, they're what really matter. Marilyn and Salt Lake City, been off-grid for a while. I've missed you all. We're glad you're back, Marilyn. Tracy, Patricia, Sandra from Brazil, Beverly, Lissa, Mindy. Okay, Genius Solutions, fabulous idea. Yeah, electrical conduit. Thanks, Lissa. I did eventually remember that word. Isn't it funny how words can just escape you like that when you want them and you just can't pick them out of the air? Yes, electrical conduit is what that is. I'm trying to think if there's any other tips I have about it. I don't think so. Like the building of it is pretty self-explanatory. I will tell you what battings I have in case you care and want to know what things you might want to buy in rolls. On the very bottom, I have, again, my very most common one, which is the Hobbs 80/20 Cotton Blend. Currently I have the Hobbs brand hanging. I've got some Winline. I've talked about that ever so often briefly. It's another brand that I'm trying. Also a cotton poly blend that I love. Also comes in the 120-inch width. So I've got a roll. Look at this. Look at this. There's a whole new roll standing next to me. That's what'll be going up next onto that rail. But for now, I keep my most common one on the bottom because it's the easiest for cutting, and I'll show you the cutting in just a moment. Next up, I have my, again, Hobbs 100% wool, which I love and use on a lot of my own quilts. Next up is, again, a Hobbs 80/20 blend, but this time it's in black. And by the way, if you've never used black batting, it is awesome. So I use it for any quilts that are darker than mid-level, if that makes sense. So blues, browns, greens, even mustards, and things that don't have any white or cream where the black would show through. And you can test it by just putting a scrap of the batting underneath the quilt surface. But if you've got quilts that have a dark backing and a fairly dark top, it's so nice to use black batting and not have white bearding fibers from the batting poking through. So I keep black on hand. Black comes in packages as well if you don't want a whole roll of it. And then on the top is one that belongs actually to my local machine quilting guild. And it's gifted by our guild to Quilts of Valor. I'm just the supply person. So people come to me when they're quilting a Quilt of Valor and get a snip off that bolt, and that's where that one goes. Okay, you guys want to see my cutting mechanism? I'm not really sure how I'm going to show you this, but I'm going to try, and I've got phone cords laying here too. Let's see if we can do it. Okay, I've moved the tripod. Oh yeah, we can see that. Okay, so here's a couple of the things. Number one is my fantastic ruler, which is just the inner core of a batting roll that I've squished flat. Can you see that? So it doesn't roll. So that's what I lay on my batting and my giant shears, and you have to get down on your knees. I'm sure there are other ways, but for me, I don't mind that. So that's fine. I cut on the floor, and I have a concrete floor, so it's perfectly safe, you know, to run my scissors across it. And so you can see at the bottom here, pardon my extension cords, you can see at the bottom here, I've got my trusty painter's tape, use number 1492 for blue painter's tape, right? So I ran it along the concrete floor, and I've got markings on it. So my 0 is right here where I cut, and I've just got, with a Sharpie, I just put, I put numbers for every 5, 10, 15, 20, and then I put a little dot for every inch. So I can literally spool out my batting as long as I want it to be, 75, 80, mine goes all the way out to 90, and then cut it with my trusty ruler and shears, and that's how I measure my batting out. And it works slick. Let me just set those sharp shears down before I do damage to myself. Okay, any questions about that one? And again, I'm going to move back so you don't have the fluorescent light shining in your eyes. Try not to wiggle the tripod too badly. Okay, let's see here. Great solution. How do you store your extra pieces that are left from the original cut? That's harder to show you, but what I have off to my left is two of the, I got them from Costco, but the rolling metal storage racks that have the shelves that are quite deep. And of course you can space them as far apart as you want to. I actually have one shelf that's full of large bins. Actually, I can show you. There's my bins. That's my storage bins where I put most of my incoming quilts from clients because it helps to just keep them organized in a bin. Sadly, the bins are not as wide as I'd like them to be, so not every quilt actually fits in them, or do I want to fold that small? So I end up hanging some as well. And I'll open the door and you can kind of see, there, you can kind of see my batting bits. So I've just utilized a couple of those long shelves and I fold them up. When I'm being really efficient, which is about 50% of the time, I take a Post-it note and I measure the batting, and then I'll pin a Post-it note to the batting with the size on it so that when I go to use those scraps, I know what size they are. So this is why I use 120-inch wide batting, because a lot of quilts are lap quilts. So they might be 55 to 60 or 70 inches, right? And I can use two sides of it for two quilts. So I'll give my client a good deal on that batting and I'm able to get two quilts side by side. So then it's helpful to know, is this piece big enough for the quilt that I want to work on next? But those of you who have watched me know a couple of weeks ago, I posted a little quick video reel on how you can splice batting without having to stitch it or fuse it, just with using a wavy line. So I do keep chunks that are of a goodly size. You know, I can maybe have one or two splices in a quilt, and I'll use those over and over again. So that's where I keep my batting chunks that are big enough for that. From there, I have two friends who do a lot of crafty type creation, sewing, and I give them all my smaller stuff. So my short strips that come off the top of a quilt, or little bitty chunks that are too fiddly in my mind to be worrying about piecing, and I give all those to those two friends and they use them up for me. And that's kind of how I keep my batting rolling. All right, so let's see what else. Scrappy Quilter, passion fruit. Janet, I wish I had a spare wall. I know. I'm lucky to have that. And frankly, I'm lucky to have this room, as ugly and probably echoey as it is to you guys. It's just a concrete room and has no windows. It is strictly a storage room, and it's where the breaker box and everything is for our home. But I am fortunate to have it, because I can have the batting in here and I can keep a table set up to do my quilt trimming on, and I never have to put them away, and my room doesn't have to look particularly pretty. Peggy, I was wondering the same about cutoffs. Yep, I've answered that. How do you cut it? I showed you that. My long arm frame has an extra pole attached for batting. I can get 2 rolls on it. Yes, that is certainly a good storage, Carlene. In my case, and for some other people, they'll have like shelving units or drawer units under there for thread storage. In my case, I have a crap ton of lighting and camera equipment stored under my long arm, so I can't do my batting underneath it. But if that is a solution that works for you, yes, a lot of long arms either come with that, or it's an accessory that you can put on it, is a long rail underneath it for batting storage. Nancy, can you share where you purchase batting by the roll? I sure can. I don't know if it will be helpful for you. Again, I'm very fortunate in the city of Spokane. We have a lot of quilters, and we have a long arm quilting store. They actually have 5 or 6 machines in their store that they rent out, and they bring in all kinds of long arm supplies. So I actually purchased my Hobbs batting from them wholesale. And now this new Winline brand that I'm trying, it looks like I'll be shipping directly from the company. So those are my options, and I don't know if they'll help you. Sometimes big box stores will offer batting by the roll, and if you watch, you can find sales like that might have free shipping or something like that. I also know Quilter's Dream, which is a really popular batting. Often their quilt show special will be to have free shipping or freight, which makes a big difference on a roll of batting, right? Because it's so big, that could be, I don't know, $50 or $75 for shipping. So if you can find a good price on the batting and find a way to get free shipping, it's a great option. Sharon, love your storage idea, just don't have the storage space in our patio home. Truth. I am going to float this one idea that I've seen other quilters do, haven't tried myself. I've seen quilters take an old office chair and take the chair portion off and use the caster wheel that has the peg for the chair and store a roll of batting on that. So it's still taking up, you know, square inches in your room, but at least it's movable easily and it keeps it held upright and keeps it up off the dusty floor. That might be a thought. Peggy, I label mine with the measurements and stack them, hoping there's another solution. I don't know that there is a fabulous one, Peggy. Like, we are dealing with something that is bulky. The trick is to just keep working through it and using it up and hopefully never drown under the avalanche. Mindy has a batting pole under the long arm, holds 2 rolls. Yep. Peggy, yours is labeled. Mine is just stacked. You know, mine at the moment I think is just stacked too. I do try and label. Sometimes I'm better about it than others. Elaine, thank God for the husband. He tuned in for me. Good for him. Teresa, I have a pole under my long arm and cut mine like you. Yeah, Teresa, no other storage. Wish I did. I'm sorry. And I think that's probably true for a lot of people because batting is so huge. And for some, it's a reason to not even purchase the rolls. You end up buying it just, you know, in the chunks, the pre-cut chunks, because you just don't have anywhere to store it. So, but this is my solution. This is my business, right? So I'm grateful to have that kind of space. Beverly, I tried your splice method. It was perfect. Awesome. Awesome. Rebecca Holt, an old IV pole works too. Great idea. So same idea. That would be on casters and it's taller than the chair idea that I shared. And so it would fit on there really well. That's a great idea too. Super. Okay, you guys, that's my information for this morning. Let me remind you again, give a thumbs up if you're enjoying these morning episodes. I'm on live each and every day for most of the rest of October. I think we're on day 22, so there's about 10 days left. With different topics, feel free to email me if there's a topic you'd like to discuss. So info@stitchedbysusan.com will reach me with your ideas. And yeah, thumbs up, share with your quilty friends who you think might be interested in these topics too. Don't forget, I've got a free workshop coming up this Saturday called Freehand Quilting Demystified. It's all about 5 myths that tie freehand quilters in knots and how to break free of them. So if you've been wanting to try free motion quilting and are finding various stumbling blocks, come to that workshop and I'll show you pictures and tell you stories that'll help you bust through some of those myths. So that's on Saturday this weekend. I have put a registration link in the description box below this video, plus it's all over my social media this week, so you can find it anywhere there. And let me mention too, a few of you commented to this YouTube video yesterday workshop to ask for the registration link. That only works on the social media platforms on Facebook and Instagram. So I'll try and respond to you with the link to the comments today, but if you just nip over to Facebook or Instagram and type workshop in a comment, you'll get that little registration link super quickly. So I think that's it for this morning. Don't forget to tune in again tomorrow, and whatever you are doing today, I hope you have a really great time doing it, and I'll chat with you tomorrow.